Well, here we are, everybody. We are now reviewing the newest album from Dreamcatcher, the Victorious. And honestly, I came into this with a couple of questions that I felt like needed to be answered. First and foremost, does it successfully succeed villains? And I think the next one after that, if it does, what does it do better overall? Now, I kind of know that from what I've read, I know that some people were not very big fans of Versus Villain, and I feel like obviously it seems like I was on the opposite end of that. I genuinely thought that album was good. In fact, I actually felt like that Shattered was one of their best songs that they ever released. As someone who has been slowly going through the discography in whole, I can tell you that I feel like that I'm pretty confident saying that Shatter is an amazing song, and it stands up to the rest of their discography. As you can see, this has been the study. So, let's talk a little bit about Victorious, though. Enough of villains. Let's talk about this in general. The one thing that I did have to say that I felt like was the problem with villains in general was a weird, I feel like in a sense, lack of identity in some senses. It felt like that they were trying to be Dreamcatcher without being Dreamcatcher, if that makes sense. It's been some time now, and I've listened to that album quite a few more times since then. This, to me, what's so important about this one is that it feels like that it is absolutely a return to form. The songs on this just feel a lot more what I feel like I was expecting when I first got into Dreamcatcher. So let's first talk about the first big song, which was Justice. Now, to me, this is going to be a bit of a running trend with this particular album too. When it comes to the first track, we get Justice, which the beginning had me worried. I was listening to this song and I thought to myself, oh, what's with this weird jungly feel? I didn't quite understand why exactly they were trying to go for the vibe that they were until, again, it's one of those things that as it kind of continues onward, it kind of puts itself together. And I think that for that reason, that this song itself is incredible. I think that this was a great choice for a title album, or for the title track. And to me, I thought that it really, really shows that there is some sort of coherence and cohesion between everything. Super, super good. Next thing that we want to talk about will be the next song, which is one called Stomp. Now, for me personally, I think that Stomp itself is actually really an interesting song because, again, the theme of this whole album is like, oh no, I can't believe that they're going to actually stop this. And it felt like that maybe it was going to be botched. And then every single time I'd get through the song, it was just so good that I was just like, okay, the quality is here and consistency is back. And, I really felt like that there was just almost a point where I needed it to be almost kind of like proven. But the beautiful thing is that it did. And again, I don't know exactly what the writing process was behind why they were doing what they were doing, but I really, really just felt like maybe they were trying to do some sort of subversion of expectation. I'm not sure. But it was really, really interesting to just kind of see more or less what the songs would turn into. And honestly, the thing that I liked the most about Stomp, what I think actually really made this really a standout track for me personally, was the fact that it was a lot more aggressive. The thing that I find so interesting about this album is that there was a lot of aggressiveness behind the song. And that's something I'm going to talk about here in just a minute. So, Stomp really, really captured that feel. So I really think that really helped the overall quality of the album. Next is the song called Two Rings. Now, I'm not gonna lie, This was probably my biggest worry on the entire album. The truth of it is, for me personally, when I listened to this song, it actually felt like what I would hear watching Motor Trend. Now, if you all don't know, it's a magazine company, covers cars, obviously. To me, it sounded like Motor Trend music, and it's somebody that I used to watch a lot. I studied all the cars, I studied their lap times, their miles per gallon, their power, the track, the whole shebang. And the way that Two Rings starts, I'm like, oh no, not stomp clap, like barbecue music. But it actually ends up really delving into something really, really good. And I think that the chorus here is what really, really kind of sells me, because it really does place a really nice emphasis on their voices. There's a part when they're singing the chorus, it goes, harder, deeper, faster, or whatever it is. And yeah, so that's the chorus, but it does this nice kind of gallop and lead onto it. And it really ends up redeeming the whole song. I thought that it really just ended up capturing a really nice phrase of music that they were able to build off of and create a very good song. So very impressive. I was very, very hopeful and very, very happy after that happened. I next want to talk about Fireflies. The interesting thing is that this ended up probably becoming one of my favorite Dreamcatcher songs as well. There's a lot of reasons as to why this particular song strikes me kind of hard. I'll share about that in another time. This is a review. To me, I really ended up just feeling very attached to this. It's a little bit slower. It's a ballad. So, of course, it's going to have some stuff that's a little more emotional. It's going to have something that's a little more equipped to handle the topic. And to me personally, it just was really, really pretty. Because I think for me personally, and this is just kind of from what I've heard, I haven't heard everything yet, so calm down. No, I'm kidding. But the truth of the matter is, this, out of all the slow songs that I've heard, this has been my favorite. I feel like that has always been kind of their weakness. And like I said, there's a couple songs that they have that's slower that I thought was pretty. But to me, this was a huge step forward in terms of writing something that's slower, more emotional, and more attached to the feeling of the theme of the song. I just loved listening to that song. To me, there was a growth in the music. There was a growth within the group. There was a growth within the feeling of just how they write and sound in their music. So to me, the question was, by the end of all this, after having said all of that I've said, do I feel like that Victorious succeeded Villains? And I am happy to say yes. My personal feeling is that this album is a lot more consistent. This album has a lot more feel to it. This album, I think, just overall has a better identity. I feel like that when I got done listening to this, there was a clear beginning, middle, and end. And it felt very, very on brand. And like I said, I feel like that a lot of it ended up feeling very, very much Dreamcatcher-esque. Now, it might not be quite as melodic. That's where the aggressive part comes in. And I think that right there is actually probably one of the most interesting things about this album. See, when it came to Villains, this album here had some really good songs, but the consistency wasn't quite there. Obviously, I've already said Shatter is one of my favorites, and I do think that OOTD was also a really cool song. It kind of actually ended up feeling like Korn and Dreamcatcher made a song together. And I thought that was really cool, but the consistency wasn't there. And the interesting thing, again, that identity, it just didn't seem to really have an idea of what it wanted to be. Whereas this This right here is Victorious. And I want to say that because, again, it's that aggressive feel that it kind of has embedded in it. Sounds like, Stomp and Two Rings and Justice really provide the antithesis. It's the antidote to this. And I think that that's what makes this so special, because they wrote Villains, and I feel like that they wrote this song to battle, to be the, like I said, the antithesis of Villains. And for me, that's why this particular one has a more defined identity. That's probably something that they wanted to try and do a little bit more with on this album. So again, I think that what would I rather choose to listen to? As an album, I would probably rather listen to Victorious. I think that the album is just a whole new level. It feels like that the writing is kind of been figured out. I know that they lost one of their main producers and writers, and this is a return to form for me. This is a huge return to form, and I feel like that when it comes to Victorious, the idea is that there is going to be a feeling of getting punched in the mouth, and you're gonna like it. I think that it's just such a good way to write aggressively. All the songs just have something that's just driving and has that feel behind it of just, there is purpose. And I feel like that was one of its biggest strengths. So where does that put this in terms of scoring? Now, the truth of the matter is that I feel like that means I would have to score this the same if I liked it more, which would be a 4.9. However, I feel like that even though as much as I love Shatter and OOTD, I feel like if you made me choose between these two albums, I would choose this one. So, of course, with a group, getting to know a group, your ideas and opinions will change and shift. I think that means I would have to probably actually change the score. I would change this to a 4.7 on Villains. For this, I would give a 4.9. For me, this is in contention for Album of the Year. And for me personally, I think that not just because I'm biased, maybe a little bit because I'm biased, but this right here, to me, is absolutely just something that was necessary. This was the home run that they needed, because it shows that they can do it without the other producer. And this was the call to form, and it worked. So this album is much more important than just a new comeback. This was can we still make the same quality that the fandom is used to? And I think that that's why I can honestly and unequivocally say yes, this album is that album. So anyway, it's okay if we disagree. I understand that this might not be for everybody. You don't have to share the same opinion. This is just me and my opinion. I think that this album is fantastic. So thank you all so much, and we will see you in the next video. Goodbye. Oh boy.